Good afternoon, welcome back to Football League World TV, and it's time for another edition of the EFL London show. I'm your host, George Dagless, and joining me this afternoon is Billy Mulley. Billy, how are you?
I'm good, thank you, mate. Yeah, looking forward to getting through these Championship, League One, and a couple of FA Cup ties as well.
Yeah, plenty to talk about coming up. Involving the London clubs, we'll be looking ahead to the weekend action, Championship and FA Cup football to look forward to, but we're going to start with some of the headlines involving the capital clubs. Do get in touch with across Facebook and YouTube this afternoon. Fans of London clubs, let us know your thoughts of how it's going so far this season of your team. Let's get straight into the headline section though, and we're talking Fulham first of all. Reports are from Team Talk that representatives of Alexander Mitrovic have turned away intermediaries from interested clubs. The likes of Villarreal and Juventus, among other European sides, have been linked with a move for the Serbian striker, but Fulham themselves have said there's no amount of money could take him away, and it sounds as though he's quite happy at Craven Cottage as well. Billy, this is fairly good news for Fulham. The speculation is probably never going to go away with the form he's in, but it sounds as though he's pretty content at Craven Cottage.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by the amount of interest, but I'm actually kind of interested to see how it pans out because of the caliber of clubs that are involved. You mentioned there Juventus, Villarreal, but I think the report also mentions that Bayern Munich and Atletico Madrid are also in pursuit. So there are some very, very dominant clubs in Europe actually involved in this transfer, and it's crazy to think that a Championship striker is attracting all this, but he has been brilliant. He is a player that's, I think we've all said, and probably, well, Fulham know themselves, is too good for the Championship, but the sort of the long-term vision is him playing again in the Premier League. So I think you can understand the interest, but you can also understand why Fulham want him in the squads, because it's not just about getting promotion to the Premier League next year. It's about the sustainability of trying to remain a Premier League club beyond a year, which has grown quite common with Fulham, trying to have a crack at the Premier League and falling at the first hurdle. Definitely happened last year, although they did put up a good fight. Having Mitrovic in the squad and firing again will be massive for them. And yeah, I think if he is to depart, you can understand with the caliber of clubs that are involved in him, but it's a welcomed sort of news headline that Fulham are going to say no to any price tag that's going to be put forward.
I saw some quotes earlier today from former Fulham midfielder Jonathan Greening saying that, provided Fulham do go up this season, he can't see why Mitrovic would leave. But having said that, if Fulham, suffer a real capitulation, as it would have to be at this moment in time, in the second half of the campaign, and they do end up not getting promoted to the Premier League at the end of this season, do you think there's quite a high chance he'll end up leaving at the end of the year, Billy?
I think he has to really. He's still got another good few years at top tier level, in my opinion. And if you look at the flip side of that, if everything capitulates and they don't get promoted, then can they really bring in someone that's going to be anywhere near as good as Mitrovic is? So there's a lot riding that they do get promotion this season. And if they can ensure that they have a very good month and they're looking sort of 10 points clear of third place or even 15, then I think they'll be confident of keeping him and laying out the plans of next year, because I think that's the difference, ensuring that he is playing Premier League football next year or top tier football elsewhere. It will be an interesting one to see. But I think, yeah, as you say, that there's these clubs involved, and Fulham will be very, very reluctant to let him go for any price because of this future plan and making sure that they are a Premier League club for next season.
Yeah, at the moment though, it does certainly look as though he's very happy at Craven Cottage. Wayne's got in touch, Fulham fan. Mitro's going nowhere. Come on, Fulham, we will win the league. At the moment, it's certainly looking good for the Whites, and Mitrovic will be certainly looking to add to his goal scoring tally tomorrow night. We'll get to that game against Bournemouth later on in the show. But up next, we're going to talk Queen's Park Rangers. A report from the Evening Standard early this week says that QPR are among the clubs having a look at Spurs youngster Dylan Mulcandy. It says that a loan deal is possible, but also that a permanent switch isn't off the cards right now. QPR are a team that are going along very nicely, Billy. They've got some good attacking options already. Do you think they need to add someone like Markandy into the squad?
From a QPR perspective, I'm not fully understanding the transfer. Markande's brilliant. I've seen him against Stevenage early in the year for Spurs under 21s, and he was a class above everyone on the pitch, not just Stevenage, his own teammates. He looked a real talent, and he was playing in an attacking midfield position that day. And if you think of the likes of Chris Willock and Elias Chair, that's going to be very fierce competition. I don't see any point in Warburton trying to increase competition levels there. He also, I think he's played a lot of his games in Premier League 2 on the wing this year, and with QPR operating with wing backs, I don't think that's going to suit him either. So he's a very good player that deserves to be attracting Championship interest, but I don't think QPR is the right destination for him. Of course, I think Warburton's a really good manager that would get a lot out of him, but I think he'd be in and around the fringes at the moment with the sort of the squad they do possess and the players like Chair and Willock. I think it would take one of them to leave to even attempt to try and do that deal.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. Very good player, and a player with a lot of potential. You can see him go very far, but you just wonder where would he fit into that QPR system as it currently stands. But even so, still certainly one to watch as we head towards the January window. It appears there is interest, not just from Rangers, but from several other sides in Dylan Markandy at Tottenham. Right, Millwall up next, and we're talking Tom Bradshaw. In quotes taken by News at Den earlier this week, he was asked whether he'd like to stay at the club. He's in the last year of his contract, and he said, definitely, we've made it our home around here. My fiance's family are all based here, and it's been the longest I've been at a club since I was at Shrewsbury. It's somewhere we've definitely made home, and it's something that he would definitely be interested in. Billy, but obviously there's no guarantees in that, but it seems from Tom Bradshaw's side at least that he's well up for staying at the New Den.
Yeah, from his perspective, it sounds like the Den is where he wants to be. It's where he sort of sees his future, but it remains to be seen if that's going to be rewarded in the new contract or if sort of a move might be on the cards. I think there was a move on the cards by those quotes. I don't think it'll be very far within sort of a 20-mile radius would probably be my best guess because of those comments and what he's been saying there. But I think he does deserve maybe a little bit of a contract extension, sort of maybe a 1 year, 2 year contract extension, because I think he still has a lot to offer. He's a player I've always liked. He's very intelligent in his movement, a player that gets in behind, but also knows when to come short and link the play. And I think he still has a lot to offer at Championship level. And I think we've seen that in recent weeks with his goal scoring contributions as well. He scored 2 and grabbed another. No, he scored 3, sorry, and grabbed another assist in his last 3 starts. I think the goal he scored against Hull as well was brilliant in terms of reading the situation and going straight away when Afobe had possession, controlled it brilliantly, going 1-on-1 with the immovable force that is Nathan Baxter at the moment, just won Football League World Player of the Month. And slotted it past him, became the first person to score against him in 4 games. So he's got that composure element as well. I think there's a lot of attributes that he's got that makes him a very good Championship striker and someone that Millwall should be looking to keep.
Yeah, certainly doing all he can to earn a new contract. Obviously, it was around this time last year that he got a 1 year extension to go into this season. So he'll be looking to at least repeat that feat and potentially get something even longer. But he seems happy at Millwall, and obviously he's in decent form at the moment. So he's doing all he can to earn an extension to that particular deal. Let's move away from Millwall. Let's talk Charlton next. We're going to talk Mason Burstow. Impressive earlier this week against the Aston Villa under-21s in the EFL Trophy. He scored 3 goals in 6 senior appearances for the Addicts now. Billy, it looks like he's another young player that Charlton are producing, just one in a sort of long list of top talents that have come through over the years at the club.
As you say, Charlton keep producing some excellent talents, and especially when you think of the forwards as well that have come. There's been some very good players that have either gone on to star at first team level or have generated a good chunk of money for them. So it remains to be seen what will happen with Burstow. I think he's got the ability at the moment to be in and around the first team squad, and he's scoring when he's getting a chance in the cup. I think he's also made a couple of substitute appearances in the league. So I think the sky's the limit with him. I think during that game as well, I think it came out that there's over 50 scouts at the Aston Villa Charlton game, mainly looking at Aston Villa players because there was some good players on show. But I think that with Burstow's performance, you think about his goal where he's read the play very well to get in behind, showed great pace, and then had the composure to slot it past the keeper. It was a really well taken goal, and to show that level of composure at such a young age, I think he's got a really, really bright future. So yeah, as you say, 3 goals in 6 games. He's looking a real good player, a real live wire up top. In terms of his pressing as well, he looks a player that will force mistakes, and he's got all the ingredients to become a top player at Charlton and progress them in the league, as well as keep going with the cup competitions too.
I think there's a chance we'll see him involved perhaps a little bit more in terms of the league team, maybe in the second half of the season. I guess it kind of depends on how Charlton are going this year, but obviously seeing him feature sort of mainly in the EFL Trophy so far this season. Do you think we might see him, pushing for more involvement in the League One side?
I think there's definitely scope for that. I think he's come on in 2 of his last 3 games, I think, under Johnny Jackson. So it shows that the new temporary manager is happy with his progress and is rewarding him by playing. If Johnny Jackson does get the permanent role, then you'd like to think that he'd get more game time, but of course that's still a decision to be made. But then you think, if Charlton are in and around the playoff positions come the end of the season, will he opt for more experience? Will that be sort of the avenue he goes down, or will he go for a live wire, an exciting player, a player who can change games like Burstow could do in the near future?
Yeah, certainly another good young player coming through at Charlton, and definitely one to watch in the years ahead. One final club to talk about in this headline section this week, and it's Leyton Orient. According to the Newham Recorder, they're looking to loan out goalkeeper Sam Sargent in the near future. And Billy, I suppose this doesn't come as too much of a surprise given the sort of the options ahead of him in the pecking order under Kenny Jackett at the moment.
Yeah, I think when Vigouroux came in January 2020, he's firmly established himself as number 1 goalkeeper. And I think from his performances this season, last season, and sort of his general command of his box and his all-round ability, he could be playing upper division. So I don't think there was much chance of Sargent coming in and dethroning him from that number 1 spot. I think Nathan Byrne coming through the academy and being on the bench more and playing the cup games, that's probably where Kenny Jackett and the rest of the Leyton Orient team are thinking that he needs to go out on loan. Obviously a capable goalkeeper. He's shown that in League Two over the last couple of years, but he's 3rd choice goalkeeper now, and there's no point having him at the club when he can go and get some valuable experience elsewhere. He's still only 24, which is quite young for a goalkeeper. So he's got every chance to come back and fight for a first team spot. But at the moment, I think the best decision is to try and find maybe a national league suitor high up in that division to try and advance him and progress him into the first team player at Leyton Orient.
Yeah, that would certainly seem to make sense. It looks like that's the avenue Orient are going to go down. Right, we're coming to the halfway stage in the EFL London show. It's time to look ahead to the weekend's matches. Up first, we're going to turn our attentions to the game at Craven Cottage tomorrow night in the Championship, and it's quite a big one. I think it's fair to say first to meet second in the second tier. Fulham hosting Bournemouth. Fulham on 43 points, Bournemouth on 42. Billy, how do you see this one going? It's a very exciting game. It's one I'm looking forward to because I'm hopefully going to be there reporting on it for Football League World tomorrow.
Yeah, an absolute corker. And yeah, I'm jealous that you're getting to go down to Craven Cottage tomorrow, because I think it can be a really good game and a really important game for both clubs, really. That they've both been in devastating form, and then the last sort of couple of games, it hasn't been as free flowing, as clinical as we've come to expect these two clubs early in this season. I think Bournemouth lack a little bit of firepower. I think Fulham are overall the better side with the better squad. I think there's a couple of vulnerabilities within the Bournemouth squad, but we're still talking about two very, very good teams here, two teams that should go on to get promoted, really. But I think sort of my opt to go for Fulham is probably more to do with how good Fulham are, rather than saying that Bournemouth are sort of falling into bad form. I think with Fulham as well, I think the amount of options they have, the strength in depth they've got, the players they have around Mitrovic, and defensive options as well, all around the pitch, it's just fierce competition. So I think that's why Fulham, I think, will go on to win this and probably progress and go on to win the league.
Okay, so what's your score prediction then here, Billy? Backing a Fulham win?
Yeah, I'm going to back a Fulham win. I think we'll see goals as well. I think it might be a 3-1 Fulham win.
Okay, I think they'd certainly take that. I'm going to go for something just a little bit closer, but I do still fancy home advantage to count here. I'm going to go for a 2-1 victory to Fulham. Elsewhere in the Championship, we'll move to Millwall against Birmingham up next. That's on Saturday afternoon. You look at the table, Billy. Millwall in 10th, but form has deserted them in recent weeks. 3 draws and a loss from the last 4 games. They're playing a Birmingham team that won last time out, but before then their form was pretty patchy as well. 2 losses and a draw in the 3 prior to that. It's quite a tough game to call, this one, isn't it? Just a point between them as well in the league as it stands.
Yeah, really difficult to call, and I think you can still call Birmingham and Millwall teams that are chasing the playoffs at the moment, given the tight nature of the division. I don't think it's been very often in this division where you're sort of coming into December time and sort of the playoff places are very tightly compact as they are this year. So I think both teams will have aspirations of going on, progressing, and maybe even making the top 6. Millwall know it's the consistency factor of turning 1-1 draws into wins. That's again what's plaguing them at the moment. And Birmingham similar in terms of their form, that they've been quite patchy. I think to Heath Chung, with his injury, Riley McGree potentially departing, that could have a big impact of how they continue past January in terms of creativity. They might have to dip back into the January market if so. But in terms of this game, I think it'll be a very tightly contested one again. Millwall were very much associated with 1-1 draws, and I think for that reason, it'll be no surprise to see another 1-1 draw.
Yeah, no, I can see a draw here as well. It's just very tough to call. Neither side particularly stands out to me on paper at the moment in terms of who might take victory. I'm sure Lee Bowyer's really excited to be going back to the new den as a former Charlton manager, former West Ham United player as well. I'm sure he's set for a frosty reception on a December afternoon this weekend. One final game to talk about in the Championship, that's QPR against Stoke City on Sunday, and it's another potentially close one, isn't it, Billy? QPR high flying at the moment, sitting third, 3 games won on the spin. As for Stoke, a little bit of a dip in form, 2 losses in their last 2 games. They're currently sitting 7th, but still firmly in the playoff picture, just 4 points behind the Hoops. I suppose it's a good chance though for Rangers to knock one of their rivals for the playoff places back a little bit, and obviously strengthen their position inside the top 6.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think QPR ever play on Saturdays these days. It's another Sunday one. It's madness. I don't know. I don't quite understand why, but I'm sure that if it results in promotion at the end of the season, they won't be minding at all. But yeah, they are growing into sort of the informed team at the moment, winning in different ways as well. You've seen their win against Luton, where they were clinical and sort of controlled the game, but then against Derby they had to go for a little bit of difficulty and adversity in the first sort of few minutes, and then went on to impose themselves as the better team. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this game. It's another tough test for them. Stoke have been a strong side this season. Sort of 2-1-0 losses in the last couple of games. A little bit of inconsistency creeping in, but with Harry Souttar, Nick Powell out, I think Jordan Thompson as well was missing. So yeah, it's been quite difficult for them in the injury front, but they're still a very good team with very good options. They recruited well, so they've got that strength and depth. So yeah, it's going to be a very, very difficult test, but QPR for me just about edge it. I think I'll go for a 2-1.
Yeah, I'm backing QPR here as well. I just think form's going to count for this one. I'm going to go for a 2-0 victory to the Hoops. Just before we go, let's look ahead then to the FA Cup action that's going to involve the London clubs inside the EFL this weekend. We'll start with Charlton making the long trip north to Gateshead tomorrow evening. Billy, it's a good opportunity for Charlton to get themselves into the third round. With all obviously due respect to Gateshead, Charlton are obviously going to go into this one as favourites. But even so, it's a Friday night clash. Gateshead are going to be well up for it. So will the locals, and Charlton need to deal with it.
Yeah, spirit of the FA Cup, a third place in the third round at stake. I'm sure Gateshead will be massively up for it. They'll be one of the biggest games of recent memory for Gateshead. So yeah, they'll be massively up for it. It'll be interesting to see if Charlton set up with a first team, or does Mason Burstow get another shot at first team level? I think it'd be a good chance for him again. But also having those experienced heads, key figures, either on the bench or starting in and amongst a few youthful players as well. So it'll be interesting to see how they set up and how they try and deal with the threat, because Gateshead will be massively up for this, and for Charlton as well. It's a good opportunity to get their name in the hat, and again, it's a good cash builder, because the third round, that's when you start getting your money's worth. Really, that's when you start making good financial benefits from this competition. I'm caught in two minds with how Charlton will go about this game, but I think they'll still be too good for a Gateshead side, even with a few more youthful players in. So I'll go for a 2-0 win Charlton's way.
Yeah, I think Johnny Jackson will be eager to try and keep as much momentum going as possible, particularly as he still looks to become the permanent manager at the Valley. So I'm going to go for a 2-0 victory to the Addicts as well. The other League One side, Wimbledon, they're at home against a fellow League One side in Cheltenham Town. Two sides that in the league really are relatively close together in the standings. Cheltenham a little bit higher than the Dons, but obviously that doesn't matter this weekend. Even so, it's probably going to be quite a close contest between the two, isn't it?
Yeah, I imagine so. I think because of that tightness in the table as well, I think both teams will be eager to win it. I think both teams might go for a relatively strong team, given that they don't have the most in-depth squad in League One. So I think that we'll see a few first-team players in the game. I think Cheltenham have really impressed me this year. They've picked up some very good results in recent weeks as well against strong opposition. And it'll be interesting to see how they go about this game. Do they sort of go for the experience that will frustrate a Wimbledon side that we know is on the more youthful side, or do they go and sort of match them and play some youngsters themselves and give them valuable minutes and try and build it that way? Again, it's a place in the third round at stake, so both teams will be wanting to get through this. But then again, there's midweek games in League One as well, so they'll have one eye on that as well.
Yeah.
I'll keep forgetting about my score prediction. For my score prediction, I'm going to go 2-1 in the way of the Dons.
Yeah, I'm going to just back Wimbledon as well to get a narrow victory. I'm going to go 1-0 to the men from Plough Lane. Finally, we'll touch on the two League Two clubs that are in London and who they've got coming up this weekend in the FA Cup. Again, they're playing teams in the same division as them. Leyton Orient are playing Tranmere, two sides that are just outside the playoffs in the League Two table. Billy, do you think either side will look to use this fixture as just a way of parting with a few shots across the bows at the other side and perhaps have some kind of effect in terms of the playoff race when they get back to league action?
Well, I think when you start going down the divisions and down the table, I think the importance of getting into the third round and the financial rewards that come with it start to increase. And I think in terms of this game, I think Orient will want to go out and win this game, but I think they've got quite a strong and large squad that they can use, and I think it's a good opportunity for them to get some minutes into players that are on the fringes, and for Jacket as well, to see some of these players that haven't played too often this season. So it'll be an interesting game. Tranmere, I don't know if they're as blessed with squad depth as Orient are. I know that they've been struggling in front of goal this season. So will a younger striker come in and prove himself and start his sort of journey with Tranmere and into professional football that way? It'll be good to see. But yeah, I think it because of the squad depth and the options that Jacket has at his disposal, I think Orient will win this and might be quite comfortable. I'm going to go for a 2-0 win.
Okay, yeah. I seem to be agreeing with you a lot this week, Billy. I'm going to go 1-0 to the O's in this particular fixture. And finally, Sutton United are taking on Bristol Rovers. Two sides that are having pretty different league campaigns so far, I think it's fair to say, Billy. Sutton are sitting nicely inside the playoff places in the League Two table at the moment. Do you expect them to sort of carry their start or their season so far into the cup competition and get themselves into the third round this weekend?
Yeah, well, we've seen Sutton before do well in the cup, and yeah, they might be one of those teams. They're like a Havant and Waterlooville that always seem to do well in the cup. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I think sort of in a similar vein to last game. I think Bristol Rovers have quite a strong squad, a lot of options at Joey Barton's disposal. They made a lot of additions in the summer, so I think in terms of players that will be on the pitch that are near or at first team level, I think it might be in the favour of Bristol Rovers. But given sort of the fact that Sutton are novices at League Two level, the fact that they will still view this as a big game. The FA Cup is still a big competition for them. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Sutton play a very strong squad against the Bristol Rovers side that will perhaps match up in terms of league experience. So yeah, I think it will be a good game. I can see this one maybe being a draw, maybe being a 1-1 draw.
Okay, I'm going to back Sutton for this one as well. I think they're going to be, perhaps one of those teams that goes interestingly far in the FA Cup this year, and I do expect them to beat Bristol Rovers this weekend. Just before we leave you this afternoon, coming up on Football League World TV tomorrow, we've got the betting show at 10 a.m. I'll be hosting that one. Billy's going to be joining me as well, and Chris Gallagher will be in on that one too. And then at 4 p.m. tomorrow is the EFL Weekend Preview. Alfie Bones will be hosting that one. He's joined by Adam Jones and Marcus Ali. Billy, thanks for joining me this afternoon. Thanks for everyone watching as well. Thanks for the comments that were sent in too. Do subscribe to Football League World TV on YouTube. If you can, that'd be greatly appreciated. And do like this video as well. That would help us out a great deal as we look to build this channel even further. But from us here for now, it's bye for now.